Namaste, Jai Kali, Jai Mahadev, Jai Bharat. I hope everyone is doing good and taking good care of themselves. Remember, if you're fit and fine, you can take better care of your loved ones. So today we are going to talk about an interesting phobia, and that is fear of having a disease that is known as nosophobia. Yeah. So nosophobia is a Greek origin and is a combination of nosos meaning disease, and phobos meaning fear. So the Greek origin alludes to the definition of nosophobia, which is an irrational and intense and uncontrollable fear of disease. So what characterizes this specific phobia? So let's get into it. It's common to be periodically anxious about contracting infectious disease or severe sickness, especially if there is an outbreak and many people are getting sick. You know, the recent event that we all are suffering from, right? Yeah. So, however, for someone with nosophobia, anxiety about a specific disease can become so overwhelming that it gets to the point where routine activities like work, relationships, socialization, and everything in and around their life is affected. Yeah. Once commonly referred to a medical student syndrome or medical student's disease, newer research suggests that nosophobia doesn't necessarily affect more medical students than anyone else. Now, let's look at some of the common symptoms, causes, risk factors, and treatment options for nosophobia. Armed with the right information and tools, you can find your ways to lessen the frequency and severity of symptoms you may experience if you have a debilitating fear of disease. Yeah. So now we come to a point where you all must be aware of the term called hypochondriasis. Yeah. So now let us understand the difference between nosophobia and hypochondriasis. Yeah. So nosophobia and illness anxiety disorder, that is again hypochondriasis, are often confused. There is a significant difference between the two. Both are not the same. Yeah, so someone with illness anxiety disorder may constantly worrying, they may constantly worry that they will, or they have, or they will develop a life threatening sickness or disease. Now when it comes to someone with nosophobia, however, will become increasingly and often irrationally fearful about contracting a specific disease, usually something that's generally life threatening and very well known, like heart disease or cancer. They may start to believe that they have actual physical symptoms of that specific disease. Yeah. So there is a difference between nosophobia and hypochondriasis. Yeah. So while nosophobia involves a fear of specific disease, illness, anxiety disorder is marked by more anxiety about illness in general. Yeah. So for example, someone with nosophobia might constantly fear developing a cranial tumor even if they never had a headache. Someone with illness anxiety disorder, that is hypochondriasis, on the other hand, might worry that an occasional headache indicate a cranial tumor. Yeah. So this is the difference between nosophobia and hypochondriasis. Yeah. So now let us understand the symptoms of nosophobia. Yeah. So the most prevalent symptom of nosophobia is simply an extreme irrational fear of developing a specific disease. Yeah. So this excessive fear will often continue even after being examined by a physician and found to have no known symptoms to be concerned about. Over time, the constant and excessive fear of developing the disease can cause other symptoms. Yeah, so this constant fear can actually lead to the cause of other symptoms. Now, these other symptoms include nausea, yeah, nausea, sweating, dizziness, rapid pulse, then sleeping issues, I mean, sleep problems, not getting enough sleep, quick and shallow breathing. So these kind of symptoms can be seen. Yeah. Now, someone with nosophobia may completely avoid the topic and any news about the disease they fear. Simply hearing about it can also trigger both emotional and physical symptoms. They also might avoid going out in public spaces like grocery store or movie theaters. This isn't true for all people who suffer from nosophobia, though. Others become obsessed with learning all they can about the disease they fear. They might spend hour after hour researching elements or monitoring social media and other news outlets for information. And that is where the real mess begins, let me tell you. And if you see now, I mean, let's understand the causes. What causes this nosophobia? Yeah, so when someone we are close with has a very serious medical condition and then experiences complications from it, I mean, it's natural that people worry about it. And if you are a if you had been a person's caretaker and you had been watching their symptoms, uh, it's absolutely obvious that you know the symptoms and you can feel, you can understand how those problems grow and how those problems affect. Yeah, so now having a generalized anxiety about your health, yeah, one of the causes is having a generalized anxiety about your health. The other one is having someone close to you die from a certain disease, so you also have that fear. What if I also die? Yeah, if that person is having it, what if I also have it? This fear. Yeah, I mean, this is what nosophobia is all about: having somatic amplification disorder, a condition that affects perception. So, having a very generalized, if someone is dying of cancer, what if I also die of cancer? Someone is dying of heart attack, what if I also die of heart attack? So, I mean, like, this is a very irrational and generalized way of thinking that happens when a person is suffering from nosophobia. And uh, uh, and I mean, like, just a side note, you certainly aren't alone. If you have fear of developing an illness, now if you see the constant news coverage of the pandemic and other illnesses, can also trigger anxiety about our own health. I mean, like, it happened with me, constantly seeing this is happening, someone is dying with this, someone is developing this, someone is, I mean, whenever I see my Google News, I see all these Google News and Apple News. Whenever I swipe and I see this disease after this disease is happening to this disease is happening to this. And at one point, even I get scared. And but matlab, I mean, it's so weird that I then have to sit, close my eyes, and do my own counseling. That person's body is different. That person's chemistry is different. I am different. I might not have what that person has, or I might not die the same way that person has died. My body is different. Yeah. So having this all of a sudden, this general, I mean, of course, the social media and the media is also quite a culprit in inducing these kind of problems, like nosophobia, that constantly, showing such newses. And I mean, like, of course, contents does trigger. Why not? I mean, it triggers, but then I have to counsel my own self. I have to read. I have to do a little bit of research, and then I'm like relaxed. Okay, I'm not going to die the same way how that person is dying. My blood is different. My chemistry is different. My this is different. My genetics is different. Yeah. So I mean, like, too much of fear mongering also affects, and not everyone has the same amount of emotional and physical strength. Yeah, to cope up with anything and everything. So it affects. I mean, the weaker ones get affected. We cannot deny the fact. Now, let us understand what are the treatments. What treatments does help? Again, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, helps in managing nosophobia. I mean, talking helps to get rid of those generalized views. Not everyone has to die out of this, not everyone has to live with this, not everyone is the same. So yes, I mean, those kind of talking therapy helps to get out of nosophobia. Apart from that, exposure therapy also helps you, understand that you're safe in your environment, and you start building trust wherever you are. So exposure therapy also helps. And apart from that, medications again. Um, I mean, nosophobia can't be treated with medicines, but some beta blockers can prevent some kind of blood pressure from spiking and keeping your heart rate constant. But apart from that, um, I don't think medicines can manage the panic, depression, the anxiety. Those kinds of things can be managed, but the talking is the key when it comes to any psychological issue, or when it comes to any kind of mental no, not mental disorder, but anxiety disorder, which phobias are categorized in. Talking helps. Primarily talking helps. Medicine can be used a little bit to manage some of those extreme symptoms, but otherwise talking is the key. Talking is the key, and talking is the key. Yeah. So this was all about nosophobia. So in case if you would want to add in, or if you want to share in something, or if you have nosophobia and if you have some experience, you can always comment below. And please do like, share, subscribe the channel. And remember one thing: no matter what the problem is, talking helps. Yeah. So don't feel left out, and don't feel very burdened that your problem has no solution. All of the problems have solution. Please take care of yourself, and lots of love and blessing. Bye.